Hi, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Gavel. Now, here we speak with remarkable individuals shaping the future of legal practice and the stories behind the courtroom. Because today's guest is someone whose professional insight is matched only by the depth of his personal resilience. Because Chris Linnitt is the founder of Beyond Legal. This is a firm known not just for litigation results, but the ethos of authenticity, empathy, and hard-won wisdom. But his journey to the law is anything but conventional. From setbacks to a life-changing road traffic accident, Chris has rebuilt more than just his career, but he's redefined what it means to advocate for those who have suffered loss. So Chris means a personal injury where something you can't learn from a textbook, lived experience transformed into purpose. So today we'll explore that story, his views on how young lawyers can develop real-world empathy and how legal practice must evolve if it's to serve clients, truly serving in their darkest hours. So, Chris, welcome to Beyond the Gavel.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. Now, your path, as I have said, was anything but conventional. I believe you wanted to join the Air Force, and then you did tourism and industry, and then you had this life-changing kind of effect on you. So, just run us through your path as to how you got to where you are today.
Okay, so I left school not with very good qualifications, which diminished my desires of joining the Royal Air Force. I therefore went to college, studied leisure and tourism. Bit of a flux state once was left there. I had the choice of university or to go and get a job. So I got a job in as a trainee assistant manager in a pub to learn the licensing trade. I was there for about 18 months. After that, we left that industry and I went to work in a factory, which time they made redundancies. I then found a position with a law firm, working as a personal injury claims handler. It was very much at the bottom of the starting of a legal profession. Bumpy start, which I had to turn around because I thought well, it was about time that I actually started paying attention and actually take some sort of responsibility for my professionalism going forward. Fortunately, that did work, and they kindly offered to pay for me to become a legal executive. During that time, a lot of hard work. Things were turning around. Work was good. I just got married. About 3 or 4 months after we just got married, unfortunately, I was hit by a Cherokee Jeep riding a motorcycle or moped, if you like. That resulted in what was a big break point in my life, if you like. Is I was going nicely in one direction, and all of a sudden, everything went down. Injury wise, I was very lucky to be alive. I had some significant injuries. The face detached from the skull. I'm half blind in this eye, made a metal up and around this face with a CSF leak. But the most significant injury was my leg. The femur was smashed to smithereens at the condyles, femoral condyles at the near bottom, which meant that it was very much open surgery of the leg, but I had to be in what was known as an Elizor frame or an X-fix, as people refer to them. I went through several of those over a period of about 4 years. I think we had probably about 33 operations all in all, and I think there were probably a couple more that were done. But it wasn't up until 2005 when my youngest was born. We saw the likes of Oscar Pistorius doing extremely well in the Paralympics, which suddenly I thought, well, I don't want to face any more surgery. So I elected to have it amputated above the knee. During that period of all those operations, I qualified as legal exec, so kept my promise, work kept my job open for me, so I could still go in and practice and gain my experience that way. And then 2006, I became a qualified legal executive in charge of my own caseload, obviously supervised, and that was the start of the legal career.
Okay. So, I mean, there's a lot of resilience in there, isn't there? I mean, you start and then you pivoted when things happened to you. You didn't kind of say, "Oh, poor me," and you didn't get the victim. You turned that into a purpose, and you've driven in that. How has that affected your approach to other people who have been hurt? They Your depth of experience and your resilience coming through. I mean, there's two ways you can take it. You can either say, "Oh, you're a poor victim," or you can turn around and say, "Or I was resilient," and then look down on them if they're not. So, how do you balance someone coming in with all their different psychological effects of any such incident? How do you balance that with them when you're talking to them?
You have to listen, you have to understand, and remember what you've went through. And what frustrated me with my lawyers at the time was not being listened to, or not really understanding, or making assumptions. And everybody's case, everybody's injury is different. It's their injuries, it's how they feel. It's not about how you feel, it's about them. But
Yes.
because I've been through it, I can very much say I understand. I will never say that I'm the same as them, because everybody's different. But from that point of view, I can truly appreciate what they're going through, having done it
So
myself.
what annoyed you most about the way you were treated?
Um,
If you were on the other side, what do you tell people coming through? Listen, I've been through this, and I mean, obviously things worked, and there are positives. But what were the things that really got up your nose or annoyed you from the people who were there as your lawyers?
I think when you become a lawyer, I think a lot of people are trying to create a work-life balance, and they're doing it for the wrong reasons, trying just to make lots of money. Yes, it is a business, but actually, when you actually engage into becoming a good lawyer or wanting to do the best you can be, you're a service. Now, if that person needs to speak to you in the evening, if that person needs to speak to you whenever, you've got to keep your promises. You've got to listen to them. And, when that person sat there in that hospital bed, it feels like eternity, wondering what their lawyers are doing for them. And I'm sure they're probably doing stuff for them. Um, you have to be on it. You have to be there for them, and keep them updated, get them involved, help them through the rehab, really talk them through where you're going, what you're doing, what you're trying to achieve. Radio silence is absolute killer for somebody who's been severely injured.
Yeah. And, we talk a lot about the present generation, but you've just pointed out it wasn't just them. It happened before. Okay,
Yeah.
it may be a bit pushy, Nora, because they're more into, their social media and their iPhones and their pads and things. And they have this, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday bit entitlement. It's perhaps exaggerated a bit more now. So what do you tell young people coming into the profession if they want to make a success out of it? What do you tell them from your experience that they need to do for their clients?
You've got to love this role. You have to love it, because you are that person's puzzle piece for getting their life back together.
Yeah,
And there's no better sense of achievement than when you are actually settling a case and that person actually says thank you. It's not about gifts, it's not about anything else. And it's hard work to get to that stage. But when you actually meet that person who is actually grateful for the work you've done, which can be for years on a no win, no fee, and you get that moment of gratitude, that's what it's about. You are serving others. This is not about you. This is not about meeting all the targets. Yes, you do have work pressures and you have to do that. But I think there's some coach, I can't remember his name, but it, if you're working hard enough, the figures will look after themselves. And
yeah,
I firmly believe that a successful lawyer has to. What's that hobby? If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. I think that is so true when it comes to law. And
I
you
think the best way, I mean, I heard somebody quote the best way to get success is to work so hard that you're not looking for it.
Yes, I would agree
Know
with
what I
that.
mean? I mean, it's not saying I want to, I mean, I'm doing what I do. I'm adding value. I
Yeah,
am doing my best for someone who is in a different position to me. And I am in a position to help them. And it's the same in medicine. I mean, the value that you add is actually what makes you feel successful. And the rest of it comes with it, because the more you help somebody else, the more you add value to them, the more they go and talk about it and people come back to you. Isn't that right?
absolutely, absolutely. And with that, if you actually love what you do and are passionate, authenticity sorts itself out. And I think that is what the youngsters coming through need today need to remember, that deliver, do what you said you're going to do, keep your promises, but love what you do and do it with passion.
That's right. And that's what your brand is. Your brand is something that somebody says about you when you're not there. And so, you know, when you're thinking about young people thinking about their social media and things, said if anybody were to read that, what would they think of you? Would you be flippant? Would you be very politically active, or what would people think about you, and how is that going to affect how you manage your clients? So you have a firm, and that firm is also branded. So how would you like your firm to be known in the world?
We're called Beyond Legal. The reason why I
Yeah.
say Beyond Legal, some people think, oh, that sounds a bit fly by night. It's not at all. The reason why it's Beyond Legal is because it's not just about doing the legal service. Now, if somebody comes to me and lost their leg, I can talk to them. I can show them how I've got through my journey. I can say this isn't the end of your life. It's the start of a new beginning. And I'd like to think if someone goes onto my Instagram post and like that, I try and push the boundaries as much as I can. I work very closely with a company called Ossa, who are the makers of my leg. I'm an ambassador for them. They have provided me with their top of the range power knee. So we are trying to do groundbreaking events. So I like to think of myself as a bit of an adventurer. I'm not really young enough to say that, but the
Well, you
mountain.
have done marathons and everything else, and you've gone climbing. Tell us a wee bit about that.
So 2019 was Kilimanjaro. That was with a different leg at the
Wow.
time, but that was for a charity called Limpower, which I'm a trustee of. So we work closely with that. Again, I'm giving to others. Um, I have done Snowdon. I don't know how many times I've done Snowdon now because we were going to go and do Mont Blanc last year, but the weather was called in. We ended up doing Monte Rosa instead. We're involved in a minor avalanche. It's just no, not too bad. And then we had to go
Just
down
a
a
minor avalanche.
just a
Most of
minor.
us,
Wasn't that
if
bad.
we thought that was liable to happen, you know.
It was an interesting moment, but luckily it was only a small one. Then we had to use ice axes to go down an ice wall and stuff. That was a bit daunting, but we're back on for Mont Blanc this August, so different. It's about 9 weeks later than it was last year, so hopefully the snow has sort of disappeared and the weather's a bit calmer. We're doing that with my brother, who's at XRF Mountain Rescue, and a team of us. Training for that's being tough. Certainly from last year, the fitness level from last year to this year is so completely different. I probably had my eyes slightly closed when I went to it last time, but the fitness level is certainly, well, I'm as fit as I've ever been so far.
Well, here isn't there a message in there somewhere? I mean, I've just been speaking to Ali Taft, who was Scrum half for England A, and she's on the broadcast, a lawyer. But the amount of training, the amount of time when you wanted something, you worked for it, you put in the extra hours. You didn't say I'm off at 5 o'clock. You went at 5 o'clock and went and trained. Isn't there a message in there about wanting something passionately and being successful at it? You've got to work for it. It doesn't just come.
Absolutely. And there's, if you want to have money or anything like that, the only way is to work hard. And working hard is by, for instance, for me to get to the top of this mountain, I'm having to put in, I don't know, a good 20 to 30 hours worth of training outside of work, bit morning, bit in the evening. I do the 5K runs. I'm going up and down mountains in England, see what we can do. Um, yeah, I've got the New York Marathon coming up in, oh, that's in November. Just done the London Marathon. Took me 12 hours 37. Lots of lessons to be learned, but every time I do this, um, for instance, that I had developed a huge sore on my uh, stump on the prosthetic side at about 5 miles. And someone said, "Do you think you better quit?" And I just said, "Well, I didn't come all the way here to quit. I've got to carry on." And the pain versus quitting versus the joy of succeeding far exceeds that. And when you get to that point, you've just got to take a breath, take a step back, see who you are, what you are, and just remind yourself why you're doing what you do. And I do this because I want to see how far I can go.
Now, aren't there lessons here as well? When you develop that sore in your stump, what did you learn and what are you going to do differently the next time to ensure that doesn't happen again?
Okay, so what I did learn was that it was very, very hot. Probably should have had a bit more training than I did to kind of numb up the bottom of the stump. I found that stopping probably didn't help every mile for the social media purposes. I lost a lot of time because of that. What was going to be 1 minute or 2 minutes transpired to be 10 minutes. Um, Add that over the period of 12 days, I could probably have shaved off a good hour and a half, maybe 2 hours.
Mm.
So what I learned, nutrition, I was not good at that. All right. I didn't have I was eating what I could, but I didn't feel hungry. So you actually are supposed to eat every sort of so many kilometers in. Um, I also learned that learning to pace yourself with the right kit is probably the better thing to do. And wearing black was not the best idea when it was that warm.
Lots of lessons. There's
Absolutely.
another lesson in the future, isn't it? When something happens and something goes wrong, instead of just saying, "Oh, poor me," you turn around and say, "What happened there?" What can I do to ensure this doesn't happen the next time? And then move forward. So you learnt from setbacks. And it's
Yes,
the same in our practices, isn't it? You
absolutely.
setbacks, none of us are perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. And things are going to happen. And we need to learn from that, say, so what happened there and how can I ensure this doesn't happen again? And it's not a great lesson for legal practice. Things will not always go right. And the trouble with some is they don't look for the feedback. You've just told me about some of the lawyers. I bet they never asked you what you didn't like about their practice and how they could improve. And if you don't do that, you're just saying, "Oh, me, I've just done a podcast thing on complacency," and it just become complacent. Whereas you have to have this ever evolving practice to help to grow and learn, and that comes from getting feedback, even if the feedback is not the nicest in the world. Every client is not trained to give feedback in the nice way and what did you do well and how can I improve. The client sometimes will tell you from the hip, and
Certainly will.
you've got to take it up, haven't you, and say, okay. Instead of being defensive about this, how can I improve our offering? How can I improve what we do? Isn't that the way you've grown your practice?
Absolutely. Well, you learn by your mistakes, and if you don't, then you're doing something very wrong. And it's absolutely fine to make a mistake because that way is how you grow as a human being, but not only as a human being, but also as a lawyer, and makes you better at the next time that you come to it. And
The other side of that is having somebody senior like yourself when you're growing and coming through. Two things: acknowledge what you don't know and ask, and
yeah,
two, have somebody senior like you who taps you on the shoulder and said, back off there, or think about this, or have you thought about that? In other words, to give that feedback, a strong mentor and coach. Do you do a lot of mentoring and coaching because you have all this whole background now, even in the marathons? I bet you talk to other people when you give presentations. Do you talk to them about nutrition? Do you talk to them about the way through to get
trying
this
to. I, I think we have a self-responsibility to look after ourselves, and it's always quite interesting with people who I've worked with over the years. The people that kind of vape or like to go out and probably a little bit heavy on the alcohol at weekends tend to have the higher sickness records. And I make no secret, I don't drink because I've been down that journey of feeling a bit sorry for myself over the years with PTSD and stuff. And it does not help me become my best self. So having any, no, I just rather just, okay, who is my best self? Me is my best self right now. I'm sober as a judge. I'm pushing myself to the extremes that I can never do if I couldn't keep myself fit. I work more than full time. I probably do 70 something hours a week, I think. It depends. That's not every week, don't get me wrong. I do have a family to look after, but it's not unheard of, and the same for my wife. And if I do have an ailment, I fight through it because I remember that my duty is to my clients. Yes, it's my business, I'm self-employed and need to make money, but it's not about me. I've got a job to do. And with technology the way it is, if I can't come to the office because something's contagious, I can still work from home. I've been at death's door. I know what it's like not being able to get out of a hospital bed. And when you do try and get out of a hospital bed, I do know what it's like to collapse and say, actually, I think I do need a little bit of assistance. And I think that's a big thing as well, is there should be a safe space in any office or any kind of legal practice that the bravest thing anybody can do is put their hand up and say, I need some help. And I think there is an air of reluctance or resistance for people to reach out rather they just try and do it. And then when it goes wrong in the long run is when it all starts going a bit terribly wrong. So for me, I think a safe space, not being afraid to say, I need some help. And if you do ask for help and you get shot down for it, then you should be questioning who you're working with.
Yeah, I think that's true. But doesn't a lot of that come from school? Doesn't a lot come from, the mark? You only got 99 out of 100. What happened instead of celebrating what you got? Do you know what I mean? The red pencil. Now, I'm not talking about the opposite. We said, oh, look, you got 1 out of 100. Well done. Do you know what I mean? There's a balance there somewhere. But a lot of, schooling is don't show your weaknesses, drive through if you want to be the best. And sometimes people who are the best feel worse when something happens, that they're so used to being perfect all the time, whatever that means, that when something happens, they're mortified and they don't want to admit it. And so some of the brightest go down in flames because they don't ask. They don't understand that they can't know everything.
It's forever evolving.
So it is, isn't that? So if you were to give one message to the legal profession, what would you want them to hear from your journey about, there are lawyers listening to this, and what would you say to them about practice and successful practice and about everything? What would your message be to your younger self or to, people in practice at the moment?
I think if I had to do it again, I think there's probably three or four short things, which is keep your head down, do more than what you're employed to do, be there for your clients, and deliver. Step up and deliver.
Isn't that perfect message to end with? Look, Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. That has been so valuable. And I think there's a lot of insights there, which a lot of the professions, both medical and legal, could listen to with, great effect on their future and their practice and how they add value to others. Chris, thank you so much.